Hi friends, my name is Kekla and today I am sharing my Diverseathon TBR with you. Diverseathon is a week-long readathon that starts today, Monday the 12th of September, and it is hosted by 4 really lovely hosts. There is Christina, Marie, Joss, Monica, and Whitney, and I'll leave links for their channels in the down bar below and you should definitely check them out, but I'm sure you're already following them. But I wanted to go ahead and share with you guys what I'd be reading this week. And I do have 6 books selected, but I really don't think I'm going to get through all 6 of them. I'm just very much a mood reader, and I wanted to have a couple of different options to reach for during this readathon. There are a few that do have priority that I know that I want to read this week, and then I threw in a couple for what I wanted to read when I was done with those. But we will just jump right in, starting with Everything by Nicola Yoon. I wanted to pick this up, number one, because it is an own voices book. I wanted to make that my number one priority with reading in this readathon, is reading own voices novels, and for the most part I did choose books that were own voices. This particular novel I've heard nothing but good things about. It is a contemporary YA with a main character of color written by a woman of color, and the main character is apparently allergic to the world. That's pretty much all I know about this novel, other than the fact that everyone has loved it. So I wanted to go ahead and pick this one up, and it's been on my wish list for a while for books that I've wanted to read, so this was just a really great opportunity to just pull that out and get started on it. The next book that I'm going to be reading is actually a graphic novel, and that is Americanborn Chinese by Luen Yang. This book follows a young boy and his experience in the American culture with his own Chinese culture, and I think that it's going to be really interesting to see that type of representation, especially from an author whose parents did immigrate from China, and he does have that experience with the Chinese culture and the integration of American culture with that. The next book that I'll be checking out is actually an autobiography, and that is Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. This novel is written entirely in verse, and I am just so excited to dive into this one. I do have the audiobook and the physical book because, like I said, it is written in verse. It is the autobiography of the really incredible author Jacqueline Woodson, and I wanted to have the experience of listening to it and reading it, so I purchased the audiobook myself, and then I borrowed the physical book from my library. I also picked up X, a novel by Ilyasah, Shabazz, and Kekla Magoon, and this is a YA book that focuses on the early years of Malcolm X's life. I think this is going to be such an interesting look into that, especially since Ilyasah is one of Malcolm X's daughters. I am just really excited to see what this book portrays, especially with all of the civil rights movements that we are going through right now and the human rights movements that we're seeing here in the United States. I will love to see that perspective and kind of see the early roots of the movements that we're still seeing waves of today. Next, I picked up I'll Meet You There by Demetrios. This is a recommendation from my friend Caitlin over at Book Chats, and she said that there is some economic diversity in here, and that is something that I am very much drawn to and I don't see a lot of in YA, but I think that it's very important to have a look at poverty, an honest and an open discussion about poverty in YA, because it's something that affects so many young adults in the United States, and I'm very interested to see how it's portrayed in this novel. I don't know whether or not this is own voices. I really didn't see any research that indicated whether or not it was, so I can't say, but I definitely wanted to throw this one into the mix because it came highly recommended from my friend Caitlin, and like I said, I think it's really important to look at economic diversity on top of everything else, especially if it intersects with race and gender and sexuality and disability. I think all of those things are so important to look at because the intersections of those can show us so much about privilege and how far we still need to come with human rights. And finally, I have one by Sarah Crossan. This was a recommendation from a few people on Twitter, so I went ahead and threw it in. It is another novel that is written in verse, and this is not an own voices novel, but it does follow 2 main characters who are conjoined twins, and I think that it follows them from one viewpoint of one of the twins, and I was a little hesitant when I picked this up, but it seems like the author really did her research. She has a note in the back that actually references all the research that she did do, and it seems like it wasn't just reading a couple of magazine articles here and there and Googling something. She actually talked to people, had sensitivity readers, talked to surgeons and other medical staff, and then talked to conjoined twins themselves, as well as looking at a plethora of other source material. So I think that's really important when you're writing outside of your lane and when you're reading books that are written by someone outside of their lane, to make sure that they've done their research, they've done things respectfully, and they are representing that subject material in a way that isn't damaging for the people that it's supposed to be representing. And I think that reading diversely is so important. I'm very glad that we're having this readathon. I think that reading diversely should be a part of everyone's reading experience every single month. And we're having this readathon because of a really awful discussion that came up in the book community. And it was definitely sparked by a particular video, but there were blog posts written before that. There have been videos before where people said diversity isn't really that important, and the fact that we are in a community where people still feel comfortable enough to post that so openly and feel like they can have support in this community, that shows me that there is a problem and that we need to be talking about diversity more. We need to be reading more diversely. We need to make this an atmosphere where racists can't be comfortable posting things and feeling like they'll have support from our community. They need to feel like they could not come into our community and get any support. They need to think twice about voicing those opinions because they won't be accepted in this community. And I think that having this much outcry from the community that actually led to this readathon is a good step in the right direction, but we need to continue this. We need to be always reading diversely and always having these discussions and promoting diverse books and authors from marginalized groups, and just making sure that their voices are heard first and foremost. As always, thank you so much for watching today's video. Stay weird.